Education, and we will have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Mr. Scott.
Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We will now observe a moment of silence. Thank you. Item number 1, adoption of the agenda. Any changes to the agenda? Since there are no changes, we will move to item 2, approval of the minutes of the special meetings of June 26th and 27th and the regular meeting of June 15th. If there are no changes, they will stand as presented. And we move into item 5, reports and communications.
Thank you. The month 10 enrollment is 4,995. Last year this time was 4,984, so we are up 11. We do have several events coming up. Leadership team meeting next week, July 26th and 27th, with all of our management, and teacher professional development coming after that. And our all hands meeting you are all invited to is August 7th, so we're looking forward to that. And I think I jumped the agenda, so I apologize.
Well, I was just going to cover it right over, and you didn't have to call it. So we're good.
What time on August 7th?
7:30 is breakfast and networking, and the program starts at 8 o'clock.
Yes. As usual.
Did you want to complete the rest of yours, or did you have? Go ahead. We're fine. We're good.
Phone back on. There we go. I do apologize.
Not a problem.
I've enjoyed visiting classrooms during the summer session, so I had the opportunity to visit our secondary summer school program with Principal Cosner, and then the elementary program over at Inyokern with Principal Eubank, and also attended a field trip to the splash pad here with Paul Delbick and the SELPA team, which was a great seeing students and staff together enjoying the water features, smiling and laughing. I'm excited to welcome Principal Maestas to Murray Middle School and had the chance to walk the campus with her and talk with her this week. And ultimately, school starts August 8th. So everything is gearing up for that. There's a lot more excitement. Schools are opening up. People are coming back, and the life is coming into Sierra Sands. So we're very excited. We have been getting lots of interest in our school supply lists, so I'm happy to share those will be posted next week as our office managers return to the sites, and we will have those out and accessible. Those are recommended lists for those who are interested. And then you have a list of back-to-school nights that we'll be sending out, but each of the schools is signed up and ready to go, and we'll be welcoming families in those spaces, as well as many are doing ice cream socials and other events to welcome the community. It is going to be a great school year, and thank you for that.
Thank you. And you have now heard for the first time in our public session meetings from our new superintendent, Dr. April Moore. Thank you so much. That moves us to item 1, reports from members of the board. Any board members have comments you'd like to make? We all good? All right. So I see you didn't skip anything, because it moves right to superintendent's report. Communications from the public. The board will provide time during the discussion of each agenda item for members of the public to comment. At this time, members of the public may address the board on items that are not on the agenda. Comments should relate to items of public interest within the board's jurisdiction, and the law prohibits the board from taking action on items that are not on the agenda. If appropriate, your comments will be referred to staff for response. When addressing the board, please state your name at the podium and limit your remarks to 3 minutes. In accordance with the board bylaws, the board will limit the total time for public input to 30 minutes. Those wishing to address the board beyond that 30-minute time limit may do so at the end of the scheduled board meeting. Anyone like to address during public comment? Seeing no one approach the mic, we will move to item 6, Educational Administration, 6.1. Ms. Decker. Approval of SEL and Beyond Professional Development for expanded learning opportunities and after-school safety and educational staff.
Now it's on. Local education agencies must operate the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program and the After-School Safety and Education Program in accordance with California Education Code. Both programs adopted the quality standards for expanded learning. They introduced requirements for continuous quality improvement to help programs reflect and be intentional about program management practices and activities delivered to students. The quality standards are a framework of clear expectations. The quality standards guide program providers to assess their programs to help determine what they are doing well and what needs improvement. Providing staff with professional development opportunities is an integral part of creating a safe and supportive environment for students and helps them make healthy choices. Every year before the start of school, the ACES and ELO staff are provided with relevant training. The 2-day training by SEL and Beyond will provide ELOP and ACES staff social-emotional learning strategies and enhance their overall knowledge of the SEL application. The first day of training will provide participants with the basics of SEL and provide easy-to-implement strategies that can be incorporated into any content area. The second training day will give an in-depth look at how mindset can affect interactions with others. The cost of the training is $13,795.55, which includes 2 days of professional development and 40 copies of the book, SEL Starts With Us, Empowering Teachers to Support Students, and will be funded by the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program allocation. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the 23-24 ACES and ELO professional development as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from board members? Any questions or comments from members of the public, staff? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous. It brings us to item 2, approval of contract with Positive Behavior Supports Corporation for registered behavior technicians and board-certified behavior analysis. Mr. Delbeck.
President Ferris, member of the board, community, and peers. This is approval for a contract with Positive Behavior Supports for registered behavior technician and a board-certified behavior analysis. There's a need to supply special education classrooms with registered behavior technicians and board-certified behavior analysis to ensure all students' safety and access to their curriculum. SDSU does not have enough RBTs and BCBAs to meet the district's current needs. There's a need for SSUSD to contract for RBTs and BCBAs to be used in special education classrooms. Since these RBTs and BCBAs will not be employees of SSUSD, we enter an agreement with Positive Behavior Supports Corporation, which would provide up to 2 RBTs and 1 BCBA as needed this school year while safeguarding the interests of the district. The cost of the district for these behavior services for the 23-24 school year will be $193,200. This will be paid out of the SELPA budget. It is recommended the board approve the PBS contract.
Move the recommended action.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from board members?
I have a few, and it's kind of a roll-up of like 6.2 through 6.9.
Yeah.
Don't know if it's better to ask it now
Go
or
ahead,
ask it
go
at the
for
end. So across all of those items, looks like we're contracting out several positions. And I'm just kind of a little curious of what the comparison is between the number of positions that we have open ads out for and the number of positions that we're filling through these contracts, and then sort of what the relative costs are of doing it the way we're doing it because we can't find people versus what it would cost us if we were doing it in-house.
Perfect. That's two-part question. I'll answer for you. First one. This particular contract, they have not been able to find us a full-time BCBA, so we're not gonna hit our 192,000, but we're looking for one, and so are they, because BCBA is something that we want in person. We do speech virtually, and we do some psychology in person, but a board-certified behavior analysis does what we call functional behavior assessments. They also do classroom behavior plans, and they assist myself, our teachers, and our students in behavior methods. So that's just a lot of these positions we're putting out there, but that doesn't mean they're filled yet. A lot are. I've been interviewing like a lot, and we're not gonna go virtual in certain positions. We know that virtual for speech works well. It won't work, for example, for an occupational therapist, right? Because they have a BCBA is one of those positions as well. They do have one RBT that they've been giving to us. They're looking for another. We have one in our district that is employed currently. We have another position open, but without a BCBA, you can't have a RBT because they need supervision. It's similar to supervision for an LVN. They need to be supervised by an RN. If that answers that position question. I'll take, just for an example, a school psychologist. A school psychologist employed for us with benefits is about $150,000 to $160,000 for someone with 10 years experience. Most of our contracts are about $170,000 for contractors. We don't pay health and benefits, so it's similar in cost. We have one that's more expensive because he's in person and he does supervision of interns if we have them. The other sort of advantage and disadvantage of a contractor is we can dismiss the contractor with 30 days notice, and you know we wouldn't do that with a tenured employee. So I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm just saying that's part. If you read the contracts, they all have. We don't have to give cause. If there's a contractor who's not working out, and it's just not a good fit. Maybe they're showing up every day, but they're just not a good fit. So those are kind of the negatives and positives of having contractors. We would certainly love, Brian's done a few things to work with our unions to increase the salaries, and we haven't seen a uptick in applications. A week or two ago, I went to what was mostly school psych training, to learn information, but also to recruit. And it's not easy. A lot of them know they're hot commodities. We have a neighboring district, I don't want to take too much time, but real quick, a neighboring district, Victorville, about 30 years ago, they came up with an idea where they pay their school psychs management, and not only that, for every year they work, they get one less year. So they come up with unique ways to keep, for us, it's been difficult because we know school psychologists are so important, so are speech and language pathologists, so are occupational therapists, and all of our service providers, adaptive PE, nurses. So, as you know, we run the positions till July 1, school starting in 3 weeks. IDA doesn't care, we have trouble finding people. We are required to give services starting August 8th. And so, the last couple of years, you see me up here a lot with that. And, we wish it was Brian coming here telling you, yeah, we have 4 school psychologists that we're hiring this month, but this is what we're doing, so.
Oh, yeah, thanks for that. I guess I was, when I'm looking at filling
Numbers.
a lot of positions with contractors versus, local staff, I was wondering, they know these are hot commodities. Are we paying 100% premium or something on that, like that and it looks like it's more like a 15-ish% to 20% sort of premium to get these people, and we got to pay it to get them because we got to have them. So that helps a lot.
And just one more thing for your head to kind of like, the longer we wait, the bigger the price goes up because they know schools are starting. So it's like any other business, and what I do is I negotiate hourly rates, but we have a huge need for at least one bilingual psychologist and one bilingual speech and language pathologist. So we have to be very careful that we don't lose opportunities because they're even more difficult to find. So it's a tricky little scale. We have a spreadsheet and we have hoping to sign them. And it's just like we make an offer to them, they come back at X amount and we say, hey, this is our top, because we've had some people that are just way too high. And unfortunately, we have to go to the next candidate. So we don't have 100% premium. We usually do have about 10 or 15% premium, but in some ways, let's say they don't work out, we have that assurance that after 30 days, now we're in a terrible spot when we let a contractor go, because then we don't have services for kids. But if they're not servicing our kids, that works as well.
Okay, and just, since I have the numbers in front of me, for the community's understanding, the number of positions that we are looking at filling based on this list of actions tonight is about a dozen, roughly a dozen, 11 or so positions, and we actually have open ads for about 16, something like that. So we're taking a good stab at getting fully staffed.
Yeah.
And one thing I'll add is, and I applaud Mr. Delbick for being proactive. We want to start the year fully staffed, but if we are able to, I know we have some in the pipeline going through. If we don't need all of these contractors, we won't use them, and the contracts are written that way as well. So this is just trying to start the year as staffed as possible, but obviously we'd love to have our own.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from board members? I guess I just wanted to tag on Kurt's comments, and I think we all, for the last several years, have been more and more aware that this is becoming a challenge more and more often. And I guess I just want to give a thank you to staff and let them know we appreciate the efforts that you're going through to try and get us what we need within our own employment, but recognize that you've got to do what you've got to do. And I appreciate the fact that we continue to think creatively about what are our other options, because it doesn't appear that this is getting better anytime soon. So thank you for dealing with those challenges. Any comments or questions by members of the staff or community? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Brings us to item 3, approval of contract with Gift of Gab and Speech Language Pathologist.
And I don't know if you want me to read all the background information, but financial implication, the cost of the therapeutic services will not exceed $150,000. Services will begin on August 8th. They're scheduled to continue till June 30th. The total cost of the services for speech will be $150,000, which we paid through the SELPA budget, and we did that. That's a pretty much recommendation, but that would be pretty much head on to what we'd pay someone if they were in-house. So depending on the agency and the number of years they have, that's how we decide how we're gonna pay.
Move the recommended action.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or comments? I think all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Brings us to item 4, approval of contract with Text Help Incorporated, replacing Don Johnson Incorporated.
Yeah, and we've worked with Don Johnson for years. They just changed their name to Text Help. And it's basically our, what we call Snap and Read. And they have a few other products that they do that. And what this does is this enables our students to listen to the lesson as well as read it. And they have a writing co-writer where you write a sentence and it helps you with finishing that sentence if you need it. So this is something that it's used for many of our students, some not without IEP, some that just need help. And if we could use a program like this, we can prevent students from needing extra help. So it's the annual cost of the district for the license is $16,152.70. It's recommended that the board approve the contract with Text Help as presented.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments?
Just a couple quick ones, if you know the
Yeah.
answers. Any idea how many students take advantage of this service?
I have school by school, and that's a good question. By taking advantage of it, We had about 140 that signed up for it, but on a daily basis with Fidelity, much less than that. So we'd love to get those numbers up. Do you know what I mean? Like they start off with it and they kind of use it every couple weeks, and we don't want to push them to if they don't need it. So
Okay, and it's not a very big number. I assume it probably hasn't increased a lot.
but well, they have new, like every other software thing, they came up with some new, you know, new stuff to it that hopefully more kids can use, you know. So, you know, and I don't want to get into more than that because it's something that could be used by any of us, all of us here. When it would be similar to listening to a book on tape, but you're in the classroom and other students don't know it. That's really what we're looking for.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from board members? Questions or comments from members of the public or staff? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Brings us to item 5, approval of contract with Soylent Blaze Works.
Blazerworks is known by other people as VocoVision, and it's a large corporation. They provide speech and language pathologists just like the other contracts in here. This one's unique because I think I came to you guys last year and let you know that Kern County cut us off from our deaf and hard of hearing teachers. So we've been desperately trying to get one. We haven't. We are going to contract them for an amazing virtual deaf and hard of hearing teacher. And yes, it's a little different, but it's been effective. But we did this year, for the first time in a year and a half, locate a audiologist, an educational audiologist, who's going to come in from the Inland Empire area, San Bernardino County, and give us some work because we've been using the local audiologist, who's a really good man, but it's hard for him to get to IEPs and to do he'll do some of the exams. So this specifically is for speech and language pathologist and deaf and hard of hearing. If we got all the SLPs that we could from them, the contract would be worth, and the DHH, about $552,000, which is to be paid through the special education. And that gets to the numbers we were talking to Kurt. If you look at it, it's about 140 to 158. You know, some 160 depends. The newer ones are going to get 140 a year, and that includes their health and benefits, which would equal between $92,000 and $104,000 in our salary schedule. It's recommended the board approve the contract with Soylent Blazerworks for SLPs and one DHH provider for the 2023-24 school year.
Move recommended action. Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from board members? Questions or comments from members of the public or community? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. I've been asked to pull item 6 and move on to item 7, approval of contract with Donald Christ, licensed educational psychologist.
Thank you. Donald Griest is our one in-person psychologist. He does an extremely important job for us. He'll do our 0 to 3 population. He'll also do our mod severe at Richmond, and just not to get too much in the weeds for you guys, when students have initial evaluations and they're that moderate to severe needs, it's very important that we have it in person. So this is, to us, just amazing that we got him. He is expensive, but he prevents us from having students that shouldn't be in special education or should be in special education. He knows how to do a very thorough evaluation, and initial evaluations are huge to us because they tell us, hey, this is a student, when a student gets an IEP, they need services, and we talk about our numbers going up. So what kind of, you know, he does an evaluation and finds that a student can access their curriculum by other means than IEP, he will give that. So he's a very crucial part of our team. That's why he's a little more expensive than most of our others. If he did 100 evaluations, which would be a lot, that's $250,000. Last year he did that many because we were behind. Now we hope to have a full, what we call a full load of psychologists. So hopefully we're sitting here next year with we're not behind. We're only a little behind. Last year, if you remember, we were really, really behind. And, you know, IDA doesn't cure. It's 60 days to 60 days. So that's our assessment plan timeline. The estimated cost, if we did 100 psychoeducational evaluations, would be $250,000, which will be funded through the special education budget. It's recommended that we approve the contract with Donald Griest.
Move the recommended action.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from board members?
Just to clarify, it's not $2,500 per evaluation. It's roughly half of that, and then the other half of that, $250,000 is, paid to him for doing additional services. Is that kind of what I read?
Yeah, well, we are lucky enough to have, I don't want to identify anyone, have a teacher who's going to become a school psychologist. She needs a supervisor. So yes, so there's consulting fees as well.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments from board members? Any other questions or comments from members of the public, staff? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Go to item 8, approval of contract with Maxim Healthcare Staffing.
Okay, Maxim is another staffing agency. They have a large presence in Kern County. They're gonna they got us one school psychologist already, and they are getting us 2, if not 3 SLPs, so we're working through that. They supply, it's the same thing, it's a contract with a 30-day out for us and a 30-day out for them if it doesn't work out. So this is more, as Dr. Moore was talking about, more of a proactive one that we're trying to hire from. And we may come back if we don't have any more in August with more, because these people are the people that call you up and ask if you want to work. So they're out there hustling to get us people. They're working to try to get us an in-person BCBA, haven't been able to get one either. So we have multiple agencies that are looking for when we need a very difficult position to fill, like an in-person BCBA. The estimated cost of the speech therapist for 2 SLPs is $412,000 for one school, and psychologist is $180,500. The services begin August 8th, and they're scheduled to continue until June 30th. Total cost for the services for speech therapists and school psychologists is $594,000, and that's based on 2. If we need more, we're going to come back in August. So just depending on what agency we can get, if that makes sense. And it's recommended the board approve the contract with Maxim Healthcare Staffing.
Move the recommended action.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from board members? Questions or comments from members of the public, staff? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Brings us to item 9, approval of contract with the Wellness Project for virtual psychologist.
Last one for you guys. This is another contractor that we work with that provided us one school psychologist, and they've just been able to locate a bilingual school psychologist. I interviewed that psychologist yesterday. We are keeping our finger crossed that they choose our district, so we'll come back in August, all things well, with another contract for the wellness project. But right now, we have one that's confirmed. So this is a contract for one psychologist. Total is not to exceed $172,888. Because of the bilingual nature and the psychologist, we usually give them an extra 8 days. That's why that contract looks a little higher than some of the other contract. That's for 190 days or 189 days, as opposed to some of ours are just 180. So it depends on the days too. We like our bilinguals work hard because we just have one. So if that makes sense. It's recommended that we approve the contract with a wellness project for the 22-23 school year, 23-24, excuse me.
Move the recommended action.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from board members? Questions?
So,
Go ahead.
I have one.
Yeah.
So you
Go
said
ahead.
that you've interviewed one, and we're waiting to see any idea how long till they,
Oh, they'll let us know by Monday. They probably have 3 districts they interviewed with.
okay.
All my charm, I'm sure I'm gonna get them. But yeah, it's a waiting game, right? And they could come back, if we waited too long until August 10th and school started, that 175 may be 210,
Yeah,
right? Like any other supply and demand. So
yeah,
if that makes sense, Robert.
thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments from board members? Questions or comments from members of the public or staff? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Brings us to policy development and review. Mr. Auld, approval of revisions to Administrative Regulation 4161.2, personnel leaves.
President Ferris, members of the board, Superintendent Moore, staff, and community. Part of my role is to review selected board policies and administrative regulations as a result of recommendations for revisions from the California School Boards Association. All proposed policy and administrative regulation revisions reflect recent changes in applicable state and/or federal laws and regulations. So Administrative Regulation 4161.2, personal leaves, was last approved in October 2004. It has been updated to reflect a new law, AB 1949, which was passed in 2022, which requires a district to provide up to 5 days of bereavement leave to a qualified employee for death of a family member. The revisions also update language. It is recommended that the board approve Administrative Regulation 4161.2, personal leaves as presented.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from board members?
I do. First,
Mr. Rockwell.
thank you to the new regime for being much kinder and gentler to us on the policy front in these meetings. Just a curiosity on this and the other items. The languages have been stricken in all of these. The references to other policies, I guess, CF, whatever. Is that a CSBA-driven change, or is that something we decided to start doing?
No, it's all CSBA-driven.
Yeah,
Okay.
so the new Gamut portal actually suggests that we don't have all of that in policy, and then they add an addendum with all the current legislation, so that way we don't have to come to us here come to the board for approval every time a policy number changes or a law changes. They automatically just append that to our policy, and we keep our policy just the language versus all of the references.
Yeah, that's great. Cleans it up, makes it a lot easier to digest, so thanks.
You were going to give her credit for something she didn't do, weren't you?
I was trying. I thought Brian did it.
Any other questions or comments from board members? Questions or comments from members of staff or community? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous. Brings us to item 2, approval of revisions to board policy 4030, non-discrimination in employment. Mr. Auld.
Board Policy 4030, non-discrimination in employment, was last revised in June 2022. The policy was updated to reflect a new law, SB 523, which adds reproductive health decision-making as a form of prohibited discrimination. It also prohibits an employer from requiring an applicant or employees to disclose information relating to an employee's reproductive health decision-making. It is recommended that the board approve the revisions to Board Policy 4030, non-discrimination in employment, as presented.
Move recommended action.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from board members? Questions or comments from members of the public or staff? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Brings us to item 3, approval of revisions to Board Policy Administrative Regulation 1312.1, complaints concerning school personnel. Mr. Auld.
Board Policy 1312.1, complaints concerning school personnel, was last approved in August 1994, and the administrative regulation was last approved in July 2012. They have both been updated to reflect current changes in applicable state and/or federal laws and regulations. It is recommended that the board approve Board Policy and Administrative Regulation 1312.1, complaints concerning school personnel, as presented.
Move the recommended action.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from board members? Questions or comments from members of the public or staff? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Brings us to personnel administration.
Move 8-1 to 8-3.
We have a motion for 8.1 through 8.3. It's been seconded. Any questions or comments on 8.3? Any questions or comments from the public on 8.3? Not all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Brings us to 8.4, reports to the board, quarterly report of the Williams uniform complaints.
Recommend we accept since there's no issues.
The report has been accepted.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I don't think we actually had to do that, but we're good.
Yeah. That's right.
Go to 5, AB 1200, documentation for the ratification of tentative agreement between Chapter 188 of the California School Employees Association and the Board of Education. Brian?
At the last meeting, we brought to you for approval an agreement between the district and the California School Employees Association, Chapter 188. In that agreement is a 7% ongoing salary increase. The law requires us to do the AB 1200 documentation, which we have to submit to our County Office of Education so that they can be reviewed and so that they can give us the green light that it is within our budget to meet the cost of a 7% increase. The AB 1200 documentation is enclosed in the packet, and it is recommended that the board approve the AB 1200 documentation for the successor agreement between Chapter 188 and the Board of Education regarding the fiscal impact of the proposed agreement.
Move recommended action. Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions? Questions from the public? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Brings us to item 6, approval of memorandum of understanding with the Desert Area Teachers Association, California School Employees Association, and its Ridgecrest Chapter 188, and the Desert Area Guidance Association regarding Education Code 65001D, agreement with bargaining associations to reduce the membership of the school site council at Mesquite High School.
Pursuant to Education Code Section 65,000B, schools that receive Title I funding and are required to develop a school plan for student achievement in accordance with Education Code Section 64001 must establish a school site council. The school site councils are responsible for conducting a comprehensive needs assessment, providing recommendations to the school's Title I program, and participating in the development and approval of the school's single plan. To the extent possible, the members of the council should represent the composition of the school's student population and at a minimum meet the applicable composition requirement outlined in Education Code Section 65,000. Education Code Section 65001D permits a reduced number of council members at schools with a population of fewer than 300 students, so long as the composition of the council complies with Education Code Section 65001 and the local bargaining units agree to the reduced membership. The district and all 3 bargaining units have a mutual interest in establishing a school site council with a reduced number of members that meet the composition requirement of Education Code Section 65001 at Mesquite High School. There are no financial implications, and it is recommended that the board approve the memorandum of understanding with Data, CSEA, and DAGA as presented.
Move the recommended action.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments, Mr. Rockwell?
It looks like we're reducing it to 6 members on the site council. We're reducing it to 6 from what? What was it before?
12.
12. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Did you already say that? 10.
Sorry, 10.
10. Okay. You might have said 12, but you're lying. You meant
Right.
10.
I
Got
was
it.
just trying to see if you'd catch me.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Questions from the public or staff? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Brings us to item 7, approval of contract with SciTech Solutions and document storage for the Human Resources Department for the 23-24 school year. Mr. Alt.
The district contracts with SciTech Solutions. Originally, the contract began in the 2011-12 school year for archiving services. The district receives, generates, and retains documents each year, and many of these documents must be retained permanently or for multiple years. District office recognized the need for a systemic, comprehensive, and secure method of document information preservation, storage, and retrieval. A district team researched the document management service area. The proposal provided by SciTech Solutions spoke to the district's need for an organized, systemic process which provides a secure, flexible, and expandable document management system. One of the departments which utilizes this service is Human Resources. It has been several years since there have been items sent to SciTech for archiving, and the need has come to start the process once again. The attached quote is for the initial startup of archiving personnel files. There will need to be several pickups throughout the 2023-24 school year so that we can get back on track. The costs associated with this service are estimated not to exceed $80,000 for the 2023-24 school year. The funds will come from the Human Resources budget and professional services. It is recommended that the board approve the contract with SciTech Solutions for document storage for the Human Resources Department for the 2023-24 school year.
Move the recommended action.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from board members? Mr. Rockwell.
Yeah, just curious what drove our process to not do this for several years, and what's changed to cause us to start doing it again?
So as I moved into the Human Resources office, I realized that there are an awful lot of storage areas, not just in the Human Resources office, but in conference rooms where we keep many, many filing cabinets and so forth. I think with the pandemic and our focus on that and a number of other things, we got away from it for a period of time. So they're stored securely at the district office, but if we don't act soon, they'll probably be in my office.
So just to be clear, so what SciTech will do is they'll take your overflowing boxes of information, they'll scan it all in and make it all available to you online.
Correct.
Yeah, okay, great, thank you.
Got to put it in the cloud.
And what kind of process did we use to kind of guarantee us that, ensure us that the effective cost of this is appropriate?
Yeah, so the original contract I learned from Carol, who was around at that time in that office, started when Mrs. Rummer was superintendent. She asked Allison Burson if she would research some system and some process by which we can do that. And so this is where they landed, and we've been using them ever since. We pay a fee every year for them to store it, but I believe it's less than $10,000 just to store it. So there's two components to my answer. One is there was some research done to see if it was comparable, and it was higher than some and lower than others. But really one of the considerations is how, if we decided to go with a lower bid, how do we move, what's the cost of moving and relocating 12 years of documents? And so it isn't overpriced. It isn't a great deal, but it's, I think from a perspective of convenience and workload, it's reasonable.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from board members? Questions or comments from members of the public or staff? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Brings us to item 8, approval of extended contract with Continental Labor and Staffing Resources to increase custodial services throughout the district.
Just kidding. I actually don't, I think I have that one in my binder here, so.
You made me second guess myself.
You have it? All right, sorry about that.
That's all right.
School districts throughout the nation are currently unable to hire sufficient classified employees to provide the services necessary to fully support instruction and other programs. The district is also experiencing these staffing challenges, especially with regard to custodial staff. The summer months are critically important time for deep cleaning our school sites. The custodial staffing shortages throughout the year have created an even greater need for thorough deep cleaning. District leadership met with CSEA and its Chapter 188 leadership to discuss options to address this need. Both parties agreed that once all summer custodial positions had been advertised according to the collective bargaining agreement and not filled, the district could contract out additional custodial services with a third-party vendor. As is our practice, all 10-month CSEA employees were provided with an opportunity to apply for summer custodial work with little to no success. The district entered into a contract with Continental Labor and Staffing Resources in an effort to ensure that deep cleaning at school sites could be completed. Initially, the contract value did not reach the threshold for board approval. However, as we have implemented their service, it is clear that the value will exceed the threshold. In addition, there could be the need to contract additional custodial services during the 23-24 school year if there are staffing shortages and the district is unable to fill the positions or the custodial substitute pool. The financial implications, the exact financial implication is unknown because it will depend on the district's ability to hire and retain custodial staff through a collaborative effort between HR and maintenance and operations. It has been determined that the contract amount will not exceed $75,000 and is recommended that the board approve the contract with Continental Labor and Staffing Resources as presented.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments, board members? Questions or comments, members of the staff or public? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. That brings us to general administration, 9.1, appointment of student member to the Board of Education for the 23-24 school year.
So in accordance with board policy, candidates have been solicited to serve, and one has been selected from Burroughs High School, and so we're bringing forward student Brody Zaid. I have not yet met with Brody, but we'll be doing so next week with our ASB advisor, and look forward to having Brody join at a future meeting. And so you have the write-up there, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions?
Move the recommended action.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions from the public? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Move to item 2, approval of agreement for consultant services. Dr. Moore.
Thank you. As you know, we have a history of getting executive coaches to help with cabinet, and this particular one was referenced in the contract when it was approved for me as new superintendent, so I'm excited to bring on an executive coach from Leadership Associates to help me and cabinet continue to have a great year.
Move the recommended action.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments? Questions or comments, members of the public, staff? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Brings us to construction administration, report to the board on construction activities and issues. Mr. Coit.
President Ferris, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Moore, staff and community, I'm pleased to give this update on the status of the district's construction activities. This report is presented for informational purposes only, and no action is required. So currently this summer, the projects that are active would be our new Richmond DOD school, HVAC replacement at Los Flores, Inyakern, and Pierce, and library roof replacement, and additional HVAC units at Los Flores, electric bus yard, and the Fowler Preschool playground. Wrong way. So I put this picture back up here just one more time to remind us of where the buildings are. Current work is going on, obviously the entire site, but Building B is starting to take shape. Building B is the upper left-hand corner L-shaped building, kind of that upside-down L, and that's where the buildings will begin to be set next week, and the slab is being poured. Today and again tomorrow at 2 o'clock in the morning, that will continue. So modular units started to show up this week, and if you can see on there, it's marked Building B, and they've got all the different coordinates set up. So they actually assemble these in the factory, disassemble them, and bring them out. And so I watched some being unloaded today. More units showed up after I took pictures. So just there were 3 modules. When they unloaded, I took these pictures, and that shows that some of the interior walls, plumbing and electricals in place, ductwork. So that's obviously a middle section. One of the outside sections with a little bit of plumbing in it. Another section that you can see your HVAC and electrical wall panels are up. This one's interesting. The restrooms got all your plumbing in the walls and electrical already. So that's the way they're shipping them down from Lodi. We're starting to look at the site, and it's a little hard to see here. This is the building pad for Building B. It's that L shape again, so I'm a little farther away trying to get the whole pad in. As we zoom in, today that is full of concrete. The pad has been poured, but that was yesterday, and the pad's ready to go. So you've got your footing, was already in place, and then the pad was poured this morning. It's quite a show when you light up all those lights and the bugs decide to move in at 2 something in the morning. HVAC replacement Los Flores and the library roof. So if you could really zone in on that, it says school starts on August 8th. So that's what's important. This is the library roof, and I am very pleased to tell you that we will have a compliant roof on the Los Flores Library. And that was left over from our modernization 14 years ago when we opened that A number and we found out we did not have a compliant roof. It didn't have the fire rating, so that's repaired. The roof is watertight with a little more work to go on it. And if you can look closer to the NPR building, there's 2 large units. A little bit hard to see on this. Those units will feed the NPR building, so instead of evaporative cooling and inline heaters, we'll actually have HVAC, heating and cooling, the appropriate tonnage for that building, and should be much more comfortable when we have events in the Los Flores, NPR, in the cafeteria area. So all new units on the rooftop, with the exception of the office. That unit wasn't old enough. The rest of the school site has all new units. And we'll move to Inyakern, same thing, rooftop units with the exception of the library, because those units were changed out when we modernized. They were still within their life cycle. So everything else has been changed out on rooftops. And I know we have a Siemens contract coming up a little bit later. What we're doing is we're moving to BACnet controls. So even though these units will still be controlled by Siemens BAS, they talk BACnet, and that gives us the opportunity later on, if things aren't going so well with our support from Siemens, that we could look at another vendor at that time without changing all the hardware. So that's the direction we're moving at all 4 school sites that we did HVAC replacement at as part of this project. Pierce School, same thing, all new rooftop units. Close in on the picture there a little bit, and you can see that all the units have been replaced. We had structural work on the kindergarten building and the other classroom building here. So those structural issues left over from the Siemens work, that was some items that were never corrected, are now corrected. So I can't think of anything else, any loose ends that we might have back from those days. So hopefully those wounds will heal and we'll continue to move forward. So all new rooftop units on the 4 elementary schools, and that project should be ready to go. We're going to be, as usual, right down to the wire on the schedule, but I'm confident that the air conditioners will be operating for the start of school. Electric bus yard, a little different story. It's been a battle to get contractors out here and to make progress. Now all of a sudden it's hot and people don't want to be out here working, but we continue to move forward, but it is behind. You can see there's some light poles that are, the bases have been set. I think I skipped a slide here. I went the wrong way. And now we have a curb and we have fence posts set. So we are making progress. I'm looking forward to getting the last piece of curb in so we can get our asphalt. And then things will move quickly once we get those items done and some more sidewalk repairs made. Fowler Preschool Playground, that is the footing for a sandbox. I didn't know you needed that big of a footing for a sandbox, but DSA did. So part of the answer is, why does it cost so much to do school construction? Again, this project's a little bit behind. It will be safe for the start of school. I won't make promises that the playground will be in use for the first day of school, but the fence is up, and they actually made good progress on the fence today. You can see the fence posts to the outside. The green is the temporary fabric, but the permanent fence posts are up, and we'll see the fencing going up next week. So that way it's safed off, and the concrete will get poured next week. So we're going to be really close, but I think we're going to be short of our goal to be operational with the preschool playground for the first days of school, but it will be safed off, and it will open soon. And with that, I thank you, and are there any questions?
Any questions of Mr. Coit? Thank you so much. Oh, Robert.
So let's say the bus situation doesn't get finished, and do we have the buses yet that we can use for that, or what would happen with transportation?
We only have 2 electric buses right now, and they can be charged on temporary chargers.
Right.
So talking to Mrs. Smith today, that it's not going to have an effect on transportation. And that will move quickly. We have all the components. It's just, I guess it's a matter of, it's crunch time for all school districts,
Right.
and it's just hard to get contractors to come over here and complete projects sometimes. But we're getting close. I know this one has drug on for far too long.
Thank you.
Clearly are not the only department having difficulty getting staffing, right?
Yes.
Any other questions or comments from board members? Questions or comments from members of the public? Okay, we move to item 2, approval of payment to Pacific Gas Electric for DOD OLDCC Richmond Elementary School Replacement Project.
Okay, so I'll try to just summarize on this. So this is our gas service for our new school. And so the financial implications, the cost of this is $36,836.14. And our other option, which I think you have in front of you, was to pay $92,910.80 or 80 cents, and then try by, depending on how much gas consumption we had, try to get that money back, or a portion of that money back. Seemed wiser just to pay it now at a 50% discount and not have to track it for that whole time. So that's our recommendation, is to accept the proposal for $36,836.14. So it's recommended to approve the PG&E contract.
Second?
Been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from board members? Any questions or comments from members of the public or staff? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Brings to 3, approval of contracts for the DOD OLDCC Richmond Elementary School Replacement Project.
Okay, so this is 3 of our prime contracts for our DOD school. And the first one is landscape for $4,129,895. This one we worked hard on. We had intended to go in with an artificial surface, and included in your package is a recap of that, and the alternate for that was $2,381,870. So looking at that and the ongoing costs, that those fields are probably good for about 10 years. We've come back to make the recommendation to accept the base landscaping bid for $4,129,895. So it is recommended that we accept that proposal.
Motion
Second.
and a second. Any questions or comments from board members? Questions or comments from members of the public? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
I think
It
we're all
is.
dumbfounded because it's so much.
What's that?
I think we're all just, it's a lot.
It is a lot, isn't it?
Yes.
So, Kent got by me. I did have a question that wouldn't have changed my vote, but I'm curious. The board header mentions flooring. Was that just a misprint and it should have been roofing on the mid-state sheet metal?
Oh, okay, then it should have been roofing, yes.
So we're not putting in sheet metal floors?
Not to my knowledge, no.
I heard they were low maintenance.
Happy to hear that. I figured Lewis was here to try to pitch
Yeah,
the sheet metal
maybe
floor
Lewis
thing.
knows something I don't know, but, no, okay.
All right, did we vote? I lost track. We did. Okay. Then we move to item 4, approval of agreement with in-service Walter Mortensen Insurance for builder's risk insurance for the Richmond Elementary School replacement project.
Okay, no questions on the other two bids then? We accepting them all? We're good?
We did 'em
Okay. All right, I was just ready to talk through all of that.
No, we
So give me a minute
passed
here
them
to change some pages.
as a group.
Okay,
Now, if you really want to go back and talk, we'll
Sure.
allow you time at the end of the meeting.
okay.
We won't be here, but you go right ahead.
So this was our agreement for builder's risk insurance, and this was new to all of us. It was a learning experience. We're working with 2 different companies trying to get quotes. This seems high, but it started off, I think, in the $800,000 or $900,000 range. We tried to pare it back to only cover the buildings, and what we're trying to do is if there's some sort of catastrophic event, fire, especially, I think it excludes floods and earthquakes on this, but we're at risk for the cost of those buildings if something should happen. And we thought it would be good to try to see what type of pricing we could come back on to cover the structures. And the cost of that is $356,212.50. So it's recommended that we accept that, and we'll go ahead and move forward with a rider for that insurance.
Move the recommended action.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from board members? Any questions or comments from members of the public or staff? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Coit. Brings us to business administration. Item 1, approval of agreement with Provision Video Systems for global positioning system, tracking, and camera systems. Mr. Morrison.
Good evening, President Ferris, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Moore, staff and community. Item 11.1 is requesting approval to enter into an agreement with Provision Video Systems for GPS and onboard camera systems for our fleet vehicles. There's a lot of good information in the packet here, but if it's okay with the board, I would like to just summarize kind of how we got to this recommendation. Around the start of the 22-23 school year, the district began looking into this type of solution and even piloted another solution like it for a short time. Unfortunately, that pilot did not go as well as we had hoped, and we were forced to kind of go back to the drawing board. So throughout the 22-23 school year, collaboration between the Transportation Department, Business Services Department, and the Technology Department resulted in a set of specifications that we felt would best meet the needs of the district. An RFP was generated, and on April 25th of 2023, we posted that RFP to our website and sent it to potential bidders. As you can see there in the agenda, we received one responsive bidder, who was Provision Video Systems. Because we'd kind of gone through the pilot program and had seen some of the pricing of this solution, we felt confident that the solution being offered by Provision was within our specifications and in line with industry pricing. After receiving the proposal, we attended a virtual demo of the system and had an opportunity to see it in real action. We came to the conclusion at that point that the proposal from Provision met our needs, and we are asking for approval tonight to move forward with that attached proposal. I did also want to just mention that we are aware of the concerns about having cameras on base property as the bus leaves the bus yard and then returns to the bus yard. Most of the cameras are on the inside of the bus, but we do have a dash camera that's going to be facing forward, as well as a stop arm camera whenever the bus stops at a bus stop. That the stop arm camera is activated. And so we are going to be working with our vendor to see if maybe there's a way that its system could automatically enable and disable, possibly based on its GPS location, since that's part of the system, or possibly train the bus drivers to just flip that dash camera on and off when they're traveling on base. So I just wanted to mention that. And with that, it is the recommendation that the board approve the agreement with Provision Video Systems for a total one-time cost of $194,768.13 and an ongoing annual cost of up to $56,572.13.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or comments? Mr. Scott?
More of a comment. When I read this, Mr. Morrison, I reached out to Dr. Moore. My concern was, obviously with those front-facing cameras, you have the potential of capturing traffic accidents, criminal events, and I just want to make sure we had something in place that we could release that video to law enforcement. And she reached back within a few minutes with a potential MOU or something, so I just appreciate that.
Yeah.
And what brought that about, that we recently had an incident where a customer of business suffered a loss, a burglary, and the business was refusing to release the video surveillance to the law enforcement agency. So they were unable, they had to end up writing a search warrant to get that video footage, which it's time consuming.
Yeah.
So it's just nice to be able to work out those relationships with a MOU or something where we don't have to have that. So when it protects both parties or both entities. So I appreciate that. I appreciate your quick response on that.
Just a
Rock.
couple. First of all, thanks for doing this. I think probably a lot of peace of mind will come with having this capability on our buses, and and especially with the availability of the GPS data to the parents. I think I'm curious. There may be somebody in the room that actually has some understanding and concern over the security on the base. I'm not sure. But these days, almost every new car has a dash cam in it, or some other thing, and so they're all over the base. So I'm, it'd be interesting to find out if that really is a concern, because if it's not a concern, or because it's just a thing, maybe you can avoid some complexity. On the other hand, if it is a concern, then certainly it's important that we address it.
Sure.
So,
I think we'll definitely follow up on that to determine whether or not that is going to be an issue, and if it is, we'll find a solution.
Any other questions or comments, members of the board? Any questions or comments from members of the public, staff?
Just a comment, we'll work with you, and please let us know what else we can do to help.
Absolutely.
And those things like Teslas on the North Range are a problem.
Those darn Tesla owners.
It's not gonna be North Range. We'll work through that. It's
Yeah.
best for the children, so it's best for us.
Teslas are secure. There's no problems. Don't worry about it.
That's what I've heard.
I think you need to prohibit Teslas, especially blue ones on base.
Okay.
All right.
Have a recommended action on this, right? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Is unanimous. Brings us to item 2, adoption of resolution number 12324 to enter into an agreement with Siemens Industry Incorporated for upgrade of building automation services software pursuant to Sourcewell Cooperative Purchasing Agreement.
Okay, so as
Mr. Boyd.
we discussed a little earlier that our Siemens software and hardware has become outdated. They no longer support Insight, which was their software system, and our server is outdated, our Microsoft server, so everything has come to an end of its life on our control system from the software. and some of the hardware, so it's time to upgrade. And so we've talked about, we're moving to BACnet. This will support both BACnet and Siemens proprietary systems. And so we have a Sourcewell agreement, and we're recommending that we accept Siemens' quote of $153,867.92 to upgrade our systems to Zego, their new software system. And it's recommended that we accept this proposal.
I'm still bloody, but I'll move the recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from members of the board? Any questions or comments from members of the public or staff? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. We will now move to item 12, where we will temporarily adjourn to the meeting of the Sierra Sands Unified School District Board of Education to conduct the meeting of the Indian Kern Schools Financing Authority Board of Directors meeting. The only item on the agenda is the minutes. If they are approved, we can accept them as presented and then adjourn the meeting of the Indian Kern Schools Financing Authority and reconvene the meeting of the Sierra Sands Unified School District Board of Education and move to the consent calendar.
Entire consent calendar. Second.
The consent calendar has been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments on the consent calendar? Public questions or comments? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous. Moves to item 14, future agenda items. Are there any future agenda items? Recommendations? If not, the board will move to adjournment. The next meeting of the Board of Education will be August 17th, 2023. And thank you, Dr. Moore, for your first meeting.